So the next article I wanted to take a look at is entitled Australian Victims Speak Out Against Christian Drug and Alcohol Rehab Center. This is on the Friendly Atheist website, written by Hemant Mehta, so let's give it a read and see what it has to say. You know the story won't end well when it involves a religious rehab clinic. In Sydney, Australia, some people have been ordered by the courts to spend time in the Healing House, a drug and alcohol rehab center. But a new report from ABC Investigations finds that it's basically a faith-based torture chamber for people who simply wanted to get better. Obviously, I'm very invested in this subject. I used to be an addict. When I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I left everybody behind that I ever knew and loved. I didn't know anybody from my past. Like, everybody had abandoned me pretty much. And the only people that I knew were the people that I met at school, who just so happened to be heavily involved in drugs, some of them. And that led to me moving into that lifestyle. It was obviously a very bad decision, but guess what I didn't have? Parents to help guide me through this type of thing. So eventually I ended up getting into harder drugs, and it took me years to get out. As a result, I have been through the court system, I have been through rehab facilities, and after finally getting clean, I've been through college to learn about substance abuse counseling and the psychology behind addiction and the whole 9 yards. I was originally going to become a substance abuse counselor. That was my intent, like a group therapy counselor. It just so happened that YouTube caught on at the right time, and I felt that the psychology that I learned could be better applied to cults and destructive religions and things like that. So instead of going into that territory, I ended up becoming a YouTuber instead and talking about cults. But this does still hold a place in my heart, and I feel like it's a really important subject to cover. So with all that being said, let's continue reading. This is Hemant Mehta speaking. Said one victim whose bail was dependent on going to Healing House, "It was an absolute nightmare. I was mentally more sound in jail. I asked to go back to jail." Back to Hemant Mehta. What's wrong with the place? First, there's literal filth. Quote, "When I first walked into the Healing House, I was just gobsmacked. The filth and the dirt in the place was just unbelievable." Former resident Francis Loy said. There were kids running around. There were flies stuck to all the benches in the kitchen. There were plates and dishwashing that hadn't been washed, and half-eaten meals, half-cooked meals. The fridges were disgusting. Back to Hemant Mehta. That's disgusting, but it's not a religious-specific problem. Those were separate. Quote, "At least 7 residents were reluctantly baptized in one of the bathrooms at the Healing House. A number of them had told ABC Investigations they felt they didn't have a choice. One of them was a Muslim." Holy shit. That's a big deal. Even if religion is fabricated and completely fake, which obviously it is, or in my opinion it is anyways, haven't seen any evidence otherwise, it doesn't matter. This stuff is still capable of traumatizing people. Even if it's fake, it can cause real traumatic damage to people. Christopher Hitchens wrote this book called The Missionary Position forever ago. It was about Mother Teresa. And in the book, he did this whole expose on her and her mission and who she was and what she did and all kinds of shit. Turns out she was actually pretty fucked up. She would do things like baptize Muslims while they were unconscious, say prayers over them and everything, which completely nullifies everything that they worked for in their lives. Now, like I said, that's fake, obviously. To me, I see that as complete bullshit. But to them, it destroys every part of their lives. It is important that you don't do things like that because it can genuinely damage people's emotional and mental health. Anyway, let's keep reading. The center has no staff nor any qualified medical or mental health professionals on site. Residents are instead fed a daily diet of fringe religious teachings and bizarre online videos as part of a Christ-centered structured recovery model. If it's Christ-centered, that's usually code for lack of any supporting evidence that shows the methods work. In fact, not only is the place unregulated, the people in charge have no qualifications. They're just Christian and think that gives them the power to do whatever they want, no matter how harmful it may be. Kind of a hallmark of extremist Christianity, isn't it? The belief that just because you're a Christian means that you have power and authority to do anything you want. The drug and alcohol rehab sector is unregulated. It means there's no oversight, no requirement to uphold certain standards, and no minimum qualifications for staff. In a statement to ABC Investigations, NSW police said they do not conduct checks as offenders are referred to the programs by courts. The NSW Attorney General, the NSW Chief Magistrate, and the Federal Assistant Minister for Charities have declined to comment. I just want to touch on this real quick. They're saying that there are no qualified mental health professionals on site. Everything is completely unregulated. That's not necessarily true. Now, I don't know how it works in Australia, but I do know how it works in the United States. There are regulations in the United States, strict regulations. If you are dealing with a rehab facility, you have to have a bunch of certifications that are legally recognized, and you have to retake those certifications like every 2 or 3 years or something like that. You have to have a bachelor's degree at least, a master's degree for some positions, and things like that. If you're a secular institution. If you're not a secular institution, if you're a religious institution, you don't have to have shit. You don't have to have any qualifications. Zero. And on top of that, insurance companies will pay you for your services as a therapist or as a group therapy leader, as a substance abuse counselor. Insurance companies will pay you for it, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to have an education in it. You don't have to have any kind of a background or anything else. In most states, that's the case. In California, one of the most populated states, that's the case. Jesse Lee Peterson, I talked about him recently. He provides therapy services to people, and their insurance companies pay him for it. He's nothing more than a pastor. Anyways, let's keep reading. This is Hemant Mehta. In other words, the clinic was given the benefit of the doubt because it's faith-based, and it turned out the Christians in charge couldn't be trusted. What do you expect from a Christian nationalist country? Seriously. There are people here who want a Christian state. There are people here who believe that atheists are not citizens, or they shouldn't be considered citizens. Namely, George H.W. Bush, the former president. He is on record as saying that. Instead of listening to the scientists, instead of listening to the psychologists, and working within the secular world to legitimately help people, legitimately fix problems, we're dealing with people who would rather go to AA or NA, the 12-step program, which is entirely based around Jesus and not at all based around actual psychology. The NA and the AA programs have a worse track record for helping people than secular programs. Fewer people come out of that and don't use drugs again than if they had gone to a secular program. Why are we still doing this? Why is NA, the 12-step program, why does it even exist still? This blows my fucking mind. The founder of the place, Meredith Raymond, wouldn't speak to reporters and shut down her YouTube channel, but the other board members haven't defended their actions either. Why do they enjoy hurting so many people in the name of Jesus? When are they going to apologize, and why haven't they quit? On Facebook yesterday, Raymond posted a comment about how many women she's helped. Quote, "I'll be talking to the cameras with everyone that's been helped. Cameras who don't have a left-wing agenda to bring a negative report over a small Christian ministry who's helped so many. I can't help everyone, but I can help some, and will keep helping those who want it. Even the lady in the videos who sent a message to one of our girls saying she would punch another girl's head in if we don't move her out. I mean, I'm dealing with a very challenging calling and doing my best." It sounds to me like she's trying to destroy the person's reputation if you don't like what we're doing here, then it means that you're evil. Obviously, you're going to, by the nature of your business, you're probably going to be dealing with people who have underlying mental and emotional issues and possibly violent tendencies in some cases. That does not surprise me. But I notice she hasn't mentioned anything about the violence of the people who are Christian, only the people who didn't want to take part in her program. She has no problem talking about the issues that they had. This is a problem that exists in every single drug rehab center, Christian or otherwise. It doesn't matter. People come in there with real mental and emotional issues. You should be prepared to work with this and not make excuses for it. If you actually had qualifications, if you had real psychologists working for you, you would know how to work with this shit. This wouldn't be as big of an issue. You wouldn't just say they need Jesus. That's the problem. She went on to say, I'm dealing with a very challenging calling and doing my best. Far from perfect, but definitely more help and support would help us just get better and better. If people use drugs, they can't stay. And if people don't like some things, why didn't they mention it to anyone and go this route? There is so much more to it all. Do I quit, give up, or keep trying to help those who do want it? There's no apology, just a note, she's doing my best. If her intentions are the only thing she has going for her, and it's not like she has professional credentials that would say otherwise, she needs to quit and stop punishing women who need help, not Jesus. I would love to see American Atheists or FFRF or some other atheistic group take on this issue. In West Virginia, they actually court order people to go to NA and AA meetings, religious meetings. If anybody put the most cursory amount of work into this, we could probably get the court system to stop assigning people, stop court ordering people to go to religious meetings. I don't see how that's legal at all. That would not stand the test of the Constitution. There's no way in hell. But that takes time and money and work. Maybe one day we'll find ourselves in that situation where we can pursue it.